Have you ever wondered how Python actually performs math operations, check conditions, or even decides what's true or false? The secret lies in something called as operators. Hello everyone, I'm Arati. Welcome to my channel. In this video, I'll cover operators in Python. Think of a Python like a kitchen. Your variables and values are the ingredients like sugar, flour, and eggs. But ingredients alone won't make a cake. You will also need tools like a whisk to mix, a knife to cut, and an oven to bake. In Python, those tools are called as operators. They allow us to add, compare, assign, or even check if something exists in the collection. By the end of this session, you will know exactly which tool to pick up for the job. There are different categories of operators in Python. We will go through them one by one. First category of operators we will look into is arithmetic operators. These are just like the math operations that we have been using since school. Let's define two variables, num_1, and that is assigned with value 10, and num_2, which is assigned with value 4. Let's start with using these basic mathematical operators. In first example, I have used plus operator, which adds two numbers together and provides us the sum. So, print num_1 plus number 2 is going to give us the result as 10 plus 4, which is nothing but 14. In next example, I have used minus operator, which is going to subtract number 2 from the number 1. So this is going to give us the result as 6, which is nothing but 10 minus 4. In next example, I have used multiplication operator, which provides us the result after multiplication of the two results. So here in this case, it is going to multiply 10 into 4 and it is going to give us the result as 40. In next example, I have used a single forward slash, that is the division operator, which divides number 1 divided by number 2. So here in this case, it is going to do the division of 10 divided by 4 and that is going to give us the result as 2.5. Please note, the division operator is going to give us the result in decimal point. The next example, I have used double forward slash or floor division operator, which provides the whole number after dividing the number. So here we are going to get the result as 10 divided by 4 and here we are going to get only the whole number part. In next example, I have used the modulus operator, which returns the remainder of the division operation. Hence, 10 division by 4 and the remainder will be 2. In next example, I have used double star operator or raised to the power operator, which is going to provide us the result of one number to the power of another one. So here 10 raised to power 4. So this is going to give us the result as 10,000. Arithmetic operators are quite useful when you are building the applications where you want to add cost of the items in the shopping cart, or for budget calculations, or for splitting the bills of the restaurants amongst the friends, or calculate simple interest or compound interest, etc. Next category of operators is comparison operators. Let's say you want to check whether two variables are equal or not, whether one variable is bigger than the another one. That's where comparison operators come into picture. They'll always return a Boolean value, true or false. Let's go through the examples. So in first example, I have used double equals or equal to operator. This operator checks whether both the values are same or not. If they are exactly same, it returns true. Otherwise, it returns false. Here in this case, num_1 is equal to 10 and num_2 is equal to 4. Hence, when we are going to execute this, we are going to get the result as false because they are not same. In next example, I have used a not equal to operator. In Python, exclamation mark represents negation or not operation. So this operator is going to check the two values and it is going to return true if they are not equal. If they are equal, it is going to return as false. So here in this case, as number 1 is not equal to number 2, it is going to return as true. In next example, I have used a greater than symbol. As we have seen in our school level math, if the first number is greater than the second number, we are going to get the result as true, otherwise false. Here, number 1 greater than number 2 condition is going to return true because 10 is greater than 4. In next example, I have used a less than symbol. So here, when the first number is less than the second number, true is written, else or false is written. So here, number 1, we are checking that number 1, which is 10, is less than number 2, which is 4. Because 10 is not less than 4, we are going to get the result as false. In next example, I have used a greater than or equal to symbol. So here, if the first number is either greater than or equal to the second number, we are going to get the result as true, else we are going to get the result as false. Hence, in this case, number 1 is greater than or equal to number 2 condition is going to give us the result as true because 10 is greater than 4. In next example, I have used a less than or equal to symbol. So here, if the first number is either less than or equal to the second number, we are going to get the result as true, otherwise false. Here, in this case, as number 1, which is 10, is not less than or equal to number 2, which is 4, we are going to get the result as false. In real life scenario, comparison operators help us for checking the eligibility based on certain criteria like marks in exam, age, discount or gender, etc. Or to verify the correctness like checking the password, or control the process like stock alerts, or for making the decisions like identifying winners in a sports or a game. Now we will look into logical operators. When you need to perform operations based on multiple conditions, logical operators are used. These operators are used on conditional statements or on Boolean values, that is true or false. They perform logical and, logical or, and logical not operations. Let's first understand more about logical and, logical or, and logical not operations. Let's first go through the logical not operator. So here, logical not operator is a unary operator which accepts single operand. This operator inverts the truth value of the operand. If the operand is true, it returns false. And if the operand is false, it returns true. So now let's go through the examples. In first example, the variable x contains Boolean value as true. When a not operator is applied on this variable x, we are going to get the inverse of x, that is inverse of true, that is false. In next example, x contains false. So when we are going to apply a not operator on this x, we are going to get the value as true. In next example, number 1 is assigned with value 10 and number 2 is assigned with value 5. So when we are going to apply a not operator on a condition where we are checking whether number 1 is exactly equal to number 2. So it is going to give us the inverse result of this particular condition checking. So here, as number 1 is not equal to number 2, so this condition is going to return us false, and because we have applied a not operation on this false condition, we are going to get the result as true. The next logical operator that we will look into is logical AND operator. The logical operator AND in Python is a Boolean operator that evaluates two or more conditions, and it returns true only if all the individual conditions are true. Even if one of them is false, it returns as false. The conditions are evaluated from left to right. If the first operand is false, then immediately returns as false without evaluating the remaining conditions. This is called as short circuiting. So here, this is the truth table of the AND operation. So for the input variable x and y. So when x is false and y is false, x and y is going to return as false because both of them are false. When x is true and y is false, x and y is going to return as false. When x is false, y is true, again we are going to get the result as false. When x is true and y is true, because all the conditions here are true, x and y operation is going to give us the result as true. So let's go through the examples. So flag 1 is equal to false and flag 2 is equal to false. So when we are going to apply flag 1 AND operator and flag 2, so this is going to give us the result as false. We can cross verify it with this truth table. When flag 1 is equal to true and flag 2 is equal to false, so flag 1 and flag 2 operation is going to result into a false result. When flag 1 is equal to false, flag 2 is equal to true, flag 1 and flag 2 operation is going to again result into false. When flag 1 is equal to true and flag 2 is equal to true, so here both conditions are true, so flag 1 and flag 2 is going to result into true. Now let's check it on a conditional operators. So number 1 is equal to 10 and number 2 is equal to 5. And here we have two conditions. Number 1 is greater than 0 and number 2 is greater than 0. So because number 1, which is 10, is greater than 0, this condition is going to return us true. And number 2, which is nothing but 5, again that is greater than 0. So this condition is going to return as true. So AND operation or AND operator is going to work on true and true result. So this is going to give us the result as true. As I have mentioned before, conditions are evaluated from left to right. So in first example, as first operand flag 1 is equal to false, Python will not check the second operand and it will return false. In second example, flag 1, the first operand, that is equal to true. So here Python will check the second operand and because it is false, it will return false. In third example, again the first operand, flag 1, that is false. So Python will not evaluate the second flag and it will return as false. In fourth example, first operand flag 1 is true. So Python will check the second operand and because that is also true, it will return true. In case of AND operation, if the first operand is false, Python does not check the second operand or condition and it returns false. Next logical operator that we will look into is logical OR operator. In Python, the logical operator OR is used to combine two or more conditional expressions. It evaluates to true if at least one of the expression is true. It returns false only when all the conditions are false. OR operator also uses this short circuiting process similar to AND operator. It evaluates conditions from left to right and if it gets true, it stops evaluating the next set of conditions and returns true. This truth table gives all the possible conditions for the input x and y and the output of the OR operation on the x and y. So when x is false and y is false, x or y is going to return false. When x is true, y is false. Because one of them is true, it is going to return true. When x is false, y is true, x or y is going to return true because one of them is true. When x is true, y is true, x or y is again going to return true. Now let's go through the examples. So flag 1 is equal to false and flag 2 is equal to false. Because both of them are false, flag 1 or operator and flag 2, this is going to be evaluated as false. When flag 1 is equal to true and flag 2 is equal to false, flag 1 or flag 2 is going to return true. We can cross check this result with the truth table. When flag 1 is equal to false and flag 2 is equal to true, flag 1 or flag 2 is going to return true. When flag 1 is equal to true and flag 2 is equal to true, flag 1 or flag 2 is going to return true. Now let's check it on a conditional statement. So number 1 is equal to 10 and number 2 is equal to 5. So number 1 less than 0 and the another condition is number 2 is less than 0. So when number 1 is less than 0 condition is going to be evaluated, it is going to return false. And when number 2, whether it is less than 0 or not, this condition is going to return again as false. So the OR operator is going to work on false or false condition and hence it is going to return as false. Again, regarding short circuiting, OR operator will stop evaluating and checking operands as soon as it gets a true value. Hence, as we have seen in the first example, it will check both the operands because first operand was false. In second example, it will check for the first operand which is true, and because it was true, it is not going to evaluate or check the second operand. In the third example, because first operand is false, it is going to check the second operand and it is going to return true. In the fourth example, because first operand is true, it is not going to check or evaluate the next operand and it is going to return true. In real life scenario, logical operators help us in different ways. For example, NOT operator can be useful for locking or unlocking a bank account or enable or disable a credit card. AND operator can be useful for checking whether all the necessary conditions required for the school or college admissions are met or not, or all the conditions necessary for approval of driving license are met or not. OR operator can be useful for providing discounts for different customer segments, whether either one of the condition is met by the customer or not.
Thanks for watching this video. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend who is just starting in Python. Post your feedback and questions in comment section. Keep learning. See you in the next one.